with that? Okay, well then maybe we'll go ahead and get started, and if latecomers come in, that is fine. So you are all here for the Engineers How to Stand Out in the Hiring Process session for Junior Jumpstart. Hopefully we're all in the right place. My name is Jennifer Finney. As you can see here at the bottom, I'm the Assistant Director of Career Development for Engineering with the Career Center. I'll go ahead, welcome. I'm really glad you're here today. It's great to be thinking ahead to next year, and that's what this session's all about. We love it anytime you're working ahead, right? We'll also help you last minute, but planning ahead is a smart way to go. My name again is Jennifer Finney. I am an alum of the School of Engineering. I have a degree in electrical engineering from WashU, as well as then a master's in counseling. So I've worked in engineering. I'm one of many advisors available to you in the Career Center, and we hope you take advantage of us. It doesn't have to be that you meet with me. You can meet with some of my colleagues or many of our resources that we have, but we are definitely available to help you. I'm going to repeat one more time a couple of the things I said earlier. So if you have questions throughout the presentation, you're welcome to ask them, but I suggest you put them in the chat box or else use the raise hand function so we know you're here. We would appreciate it if possible if you keep your cameras on just so we can see that you're with us, although we understand if you have an internet problem or something that prohibits that. And this is a lot of material, so I'm likely to go fast. Feel free to tell me to slow down if I'm going too fast, and do feel free to ask questions, but we will go through a lot. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Also, if you do have questions, I always like to say this in every session, it's less appropriate for this session, but go ahead and ask questions. Often students think their question is unique and they want to wait later to talk privately, but usually other students have similar questions. But at the same time, feel free to reach out and connect with me outside of this session as well. Oh, and the one other little warning I wanted to give, this is general advice that I would give in any year for juniors rising to be seniors and how to prepare for next year. I will touch on COVID once or twice, but this isn't about the current COVID situation. This is more, big picture, but certainly if there are more specific questions, we can get into that as well. So yeah, let's get started more. Oh, I've lost my scroll function. All right, 1 minute while, there we go. Okay, so again, here's our agenda we're gonna go over. So 1, where are the opportunities? 2, what you need to do to set up about being a candidate. So we'll cover several different topics there. Strategy, documents, on-campus recruiting, career link, networking, things like that. And don't stop until you land. Other things that you're gonna wanna do to really make the most of these opportunities. So I wanted to start just with some comments from graduating seniors. You can read this, but I can read it out loud as well. The Career Center is a wonderful resource for job searching. I feel I got very good exposure through CareerLink. It was always convenient to apply to jobs at many different companies and display my resume to potential candidate seekers. I should mention I received excellent help on my resume and cover letters through quick advising and question hours. So that was some really nice feedback. We appreciate it. Also, the Career Center helped me receive numerous interviews for positions and helped me find openings that otherwise might not have been available. The Career Center Spring Job Fair was where I met my contact within Boeing. I can thank the Career Center for making my job happen. So we always love to hear feedback like that. But then a little more about what we provide for you. So here's a list of things we cover. One-on-one advising is probably our most used function, and that's where you meet individually with me or another advisor. Typically we do that in person on campus, but we also always have done virtual meetings, and now we're doing only virtual meetings for the moment. So we can do Zoom, we can do phone. Typically those are an hour long, but they don't have to last the full hour. We also do a lot of workshops. Hopefully some of you have participated in those, and that could be all sorts of things from like resume development to networking, how to prepare for a career fair, things like what we're doing today. We do mock interviews, and that can be for behavioral interviews or for case interviews. That can be for technical interviews, networking events, career fairs. Probably most of you are familiar with that. We usually do 1 a semester. Mentoring program, road shows, which is a great opportunity where we go to, with a group of students to a location like San Francisco and visit companies and learn more. Career interest groups. This is really good if you have some specific interests. There is a group for engineering, but you're all part of that automatically. But there's some other groups that may be helpful to you if you have other interests. Some popular ones are going to include things like the consulting interest group or sustainability or finance, but there's other groups as well. And then CareerLink Job Database is, you know, one of our main resources. That is our job and internship database where we post our information and jobs that we're aware of for you. We also do other advising hours. So like I said, we're still supporting during this pandemic. We do phone and Zoom for all sorts of experiences. And we offer services to all WashU students. So I'm assuming most of you are undergrad engineers, and that's what brought you here, right? Junior engineering students. But we do this for all students. We do this after you graduate as well. And then our advising hours. So this is predicted for the fall, right? Typically, our office is open 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. We have quick questions where we have student workers, our career peers who are awesome, that are available for things like resume review from 10 to 5, Monday through Friday. You just walk into our main office in the Duck. And then we do our engineering specific hours, our quick advising hours, Monday through Thursday, 1:30 to 4 in La Plata 203. Again, it can be walk-in. Over there, we can get busy, so we have some online sign-in options, but those are for shorter appointments, like 15 minutes, resume review or quick follow-up. Not as good for what should I do with my life, which is better in a one-on-one hour-long appointment. During the summer, we don't do these shorter appointments, but in the fall, we'll get back to that. Okay, so first big topic is where are the opportunities? And I'm sure you all could answer with different ideas about where this is. I'm gonna jump here, advertised versus non-advertised. So what we see in life, and not just us, what everyone in the field of careers sees, is that most people looking for jobs are gonna go for that advertised job, right? That's LinkedIn, Indeed, whatever, where companies are posting jobs. And certainly we want you to make use of that. But we want to talk also about non-advertised, things you may find outside of those where you might have a better fit or just a better chance competing with fewer people. So here's a nice survey. How did people find their opportunities? So 50% said CareerLink and on-campus recruiting. 22% said networking. That's a really key number. Prior experience is great, right? That really helps if you've got it. Internet search 10%, other 6%. So not that you shouldn't use the internet, but that's only about 10% of how people actually get their jobs. And then did you meet with a career advisor? So 88% said yes. So we do encourage that as well. Okay, so yeah, I'm sorry. So that was the end of like where to find them. The key is don't just rely on looking at these databases. CareerLink is a really good place to start. LinkedIn is a good place to start. Indeed is a good place to start, but then you want to go outside that to networking. So we'll get into more of that farther down. But now, what do we need to do to be ready, right? So resume is usually the first most obvious, like let's check this box off and get it done. So if you either don't already have a resume, this is a good place to start, but even if you do, you'll need to update it, right? You're probably updating it at least once a semester or as you get internship opportunities, things like that. So one way to think about it is it's your personal bulletin board. You are choosing what you're going to highlight on the resume and how to make this really stand out for you. Resume is really critical, right? This is what people are going to see about you. Their first impression in many cases, you want it to be good. You want to make sure you put some real effort into the resume. It's not the only thing, that's not the only place to put effort, but it's definitely worth some time to make sure it's going to be good. It's got to be attractive. So that means, you know, easy to read, looks nice. I want to make sure this is really key. You have to show your value and accomplishments. What have you done? What have you accomplished? Why are you going to be a good fit for them? And then what tools and skills you bring, right? Skills section is a key point that should probably be on every engineer's resume. And sometimes it's a really like hard skills like coding, so Java or MATLAB or SolidWorks, but sometimes it's some other ones as well. But they want to see what you are able to provide. And some of that's going to be illustrated in your previous experiences as well. Yeah, must be grammatically correct. This is important, right? If I'm getting thousands of resumes for a position, I'm looking for ways to cut you out. And easy ways are, oh, this person couldn't take the time to run spell check, it's out. Run spell check. Also, don't rely on spell check or rely on your own being able to do this. You look at the document too long, you're not going to catch errors, and spell check's only so good. So have someone else read it. We're a great example. Have us read it. That's awesome. But it doesn't have to be us. It could be a roommate. It could be a parent. But to have someone else with fresh eyes take a look and make sure you didn't miss anything. Professional, well organized. So how you put things on there to make it easy to find. You can look at our example handout is a good place to start. Oh, filing. This is one I do forget to talk about often, so I'm glad I keep it in the slide. It's really common for someone to send off a resume to someone electronically and it just say resume, which on your own computer is fine, right? But if I get 1,000 emails with 1,000 resumes that all say resume, this makes my life harder. Now when I download them, I have to differentiate them, or I'm writing over old ones. So give it a name that's going to help differentiate. Maybe resume and then your initials and even the company name. But do something that makes it really easy. Obviously, if you put company name in there, just be careful that you don't send the wrong one to the wrong company. It's always embarrassing. If you do, you cope with it, but try to avoid that. But at least get your initials in there or something, or your last name, something so it's not just resume, resume, resume. You also probably will want to keep track for yourself of versions, and that's up to you how you do that. But that's a common problem, right? Like, let me find my resume. Wait, which one's my most recent? What's the right one? So some sort of system that helps you keep track of those things. Okay, this is really important, although I usually see the opposite problem. Don't lie. If you lie on your resume and get caught, you're not going to get the job. And not only are you not going to get the job, like this can hurt you long term. That's the type of thing that sticks out to someone and they remember. If you don't get a job, the company isn't mad at you, doesn't mean they won't ever talk to you, right? You could get rejected from one position and they're ready to offer you another one. But if you lied and that's why you get rejected, they remember. That sticks out and can follow you for a long time. So definitely avoid lying. The overstating your qualifications is where it gets hard. I find that most students are too timid and not willing to sell themselves. So it is a balance. You need to be able to make your case about why you are a strong candidate, and you need to show what you've done. But definitely be careful that you don't say more. One non-engineering related easy example would be, don't say you're fluent in German unless you're prepared to answer me, because if it says fluent in German, I'm going to start speaking German. Guten Tag, wie geht's? And if you can't answer me, then I'm going to be like, wait, why did you say you were fluent in German? So that's kind of just a basic example of that. And then have it reviewed. I already touched on that, so I'm going out of order. Okay, so that was a lot of key resume components. Again, not that this is the only thing you spend time on, but definitely make sure that you do spend some time. One thing we didn't say, if you are a junior, you want a one-page resume. A two-page resume is one of those things that can get weeded out. So one page. If you're struggling with that, that's something we're really good with, is how we can squeeze more in and how we can change the formatting. But stick with that one page. Also try to make it boring in a way. We generally don't want much color. We want a pretty simple format, unless you are in like design and more on the art side, and then that's different. But don't feel like you need to make it too out there. Do make it look nice, but it doesn't have to be completely unique, things like that. I know we have some new people join us, so just wanted to repeat that if you are able, we would love to see your video on, just so we know you're there. And then if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat or use the raise hand function. Okay, so after resume, now what do we do? So now we need the strategy of what comes next. Job search strategy. Having an action plan really helps you, and that's where coming today and thinking ahead to next year, you have the ability to make this plan. When you come in to me in May next year, like, I need a job, I'm graduating next week, it's a lot harder to have a nice, calm plan, right? Then you're just panic mode, I gotta get this job, so much pressure. So now you're doing the right steps to really look ahead and get this done in a very like planned out way, right? Key point is that there is no set path. If you do step 1, 2, and 3, you're going to have a job. This is a non-linear thing. There's a whole bunch of different steps we take, and we don't know what one is going to get us there. But still, having a plan is going to make it work better. So, some of the things to think about. First, right, what do you want to do? It's understandable. We all don't know exactly what we want to do. Even if you think you do, that may not be correct long term, right? People change. I did not want to be a career counselor when I was a junior studying electrical engineering. It's okay. But still, hopefully you have some idea. Often students will come in and be like, I just want a job, any engineering job. And that sounds positive. in some ways, right? Like you're flexible, you're easy, but it can also have the opposite and sound desperate or like you don't know what you're doing. So it's good to think a little bit about what do you want to do. So be open, but also think about what things sound particularly good. And that'll also help you narrow your search down a little bit. If you're really open to anything, it gets overwhelming. Yeah, and then you can start researching companies, have a target list. So a target list is really nice because again, it's not just I want any job, but it's, I'd love to work for this company. I would love to work for Google. I would love to work for ExxonMobil. I would love to work for whatever, whichever ones you have in mind. But having some goals, it doesn't mean I won't work for another company, but those are the companies I'm going to focus in on and I'm going to aim for and think about how can I target myself to fit them well. And then based on that target list, we can adjust some of the other things. So we already talked about resume. That was in a more general sense. You need just a basic resume, but then you might change things up on the resume depending on what your focus is. This can be particularly true. For instance, I'll see a lot of students who, let's say you're a mechanical engineer and you're thinking you want a mechanical engineering job, but you're also interested in applying to consulting positions in the fall. Well, that may end up with 2 different resumes. It doesn't have to be, but you might have 2 different resumes because those are 2 different industry focuses. And so that's where thinking about that, what do you want to do, will help impact what your resume looks like, what the cover letter looks like, all those things. Even, dress and etiquette, right? If you are applying to jobs in Silicon Valley, you may not dress quite so formally as if you're applying to consulting and finance jobs. We still want you to look nice. No shorts, no ripped jeans, but there's a difference in the formality. And then this is really key. You're going to devote time to this on a regular basis. So none of this is go out today and do everything. It's also not, oh my gosh, it's overwhelming, I'm just not going to do anything at all. Do regular time, and this is going to really help you to just slowly make steps forward and not feel like it all has to be at once. Okay, utilize networks. We've touched on this a bit. We'll talk about it more, but networks are key. Networks can be a scary word for people. Networking is about making connections. It's about learning cool things from cool people. So you just want to keep working on it because it really will help you out. The more people you're in contact with, the more you're going to hear about positions, the more you're going to have people helping you out as you apply. And then enhancing your skills. So again, this is where last minute, I got to apply for a job tomorrow and have an interview next week. There's not a lot I can do to enhance those skills, but thinking ahead, we can do some of that. So some of that can be, writing the resume. Some of that can be networking and interviewing, but that can also be other skills. If you feel like there's a key skill that's really going to help you in applying for jobs next year, you can be thinking about developing that over the summer, doing LinkedIn learning to learn, more tricks with Excel or something else. So those are important things too. But again, start early. So that's what you're all doing. So that's why this is great. It really, sorry. I'm not as comfortable with PowerPoint and Zoom as I should be. But we're here to help you with the whole process, right? So this can sound challenging. Again, break it down, work with us, we'll help you get there. Okay, some extra tips about resume. This is from employers that work with us in the Career Center. So that's always nice, right? It's not just me telling you to do something, but what did the employer actually say? So they definitely want to see work or internship experience. I will say students can get kind of hung up on this, and the word internship is a word. They just want to see that you've applied your skills outside of school. That can still be research. That can be projects. It doesn't have to be something that was labeled internship. That's why work's on here. Just that you have done things to apply those skills and you can show that. Your specific major or degree, hopefully that's pretty obvious. If you don't say your major on your resume, it's going to be a lot harder for them to understand your focus area. Then accomplishments. So this can be tough for students, I know. But it's great to say, I programmed this, I researched this, but they love it if you can give an actual accomplishment. If you can say, I improved the efficiency of this app by 30%, I'm totally making that up. Numbers, something I actually did. I hosted an event for 300 students. That's great. Now, not everyone has it, and you may be in the middle of a project that's not done or you don't have the accomplishment, so don't feel like it has to be there. But a lot of students leave it out because they don't even think about it. In day-to-day life, you don't go around saying, I just improved that efficiency by 30%, right? That'd be bragging. But on a resume, it's the place to do it. So they like to see that. Clear objective summary. This one's tougher. this is a kind of a 50-50 thing. And it definitely, if you have an objective or summary, they want it to be clear. There is no doubt. Whether you include it is the question. So a summary can be nice, but it can also just be using up valuable space on your resume. So that's kind of on a case-by-case basis. If you have a really strong job objective in mind, a good focus, and if it's something that may not be obvious from the rest of the resume, this can be really useful. If you're going to say, I'm a junior CS major and I want a software internship, like kind of wasting space, right? They could figure that out. So we can talk more about that and help more with that. Extracurriculars. This is another one where I find students just leave it off. Oh, my extracurriculars aren't related to my major. I'm not going to bother putting it on there. Companies want to see you did stuff outside of school. They want to see you have a life. They want to see you're a person. Also, you develop a lot of skills through extracurriculars, right? You may have leadership skills, people skills, all sorts of different skills through those. So just because it's not related doesn't mean you don't put it on there. Now you can choose. If you have a million clubs, you may not put them all on, right? But definitely throwing some on can be really helpful. And we can talk about that individually too. GPA, that's always a tricky one, right? Yeah, if they say I need a 3.5 and I have a 3.5, I better put that on the resume, right? This is another example of I need to be bragging. If they say I need a 3.5 and I have a 3.2, I'm maybe not going to put it on there. I don't want to like rule myself out first thing. Overall, if you are a computer science major going into a technical type job, what I've heard specifically about this is that they will assume if your GPA does not show up on your resume that it means you have a 2.0. So if your GPA is higher than a 2.0 and you're applying to a tech company, I would put it on there. If you're not for tech, if you're going more general engineering, then it gets trickier. You know, if it's below a 3.0, then you have to stop and think, is that what I want to advertise about myself on my resume, or would I rather highlight the other factors? And then it's going to depend really on jobs. If you have a 3.5 or above, personally, I'm like, why are you not putting it on there? That's great. You're doing so well. Usually even a 3.2 and above is pretty good in engineering, right? Like I would put that on myself, but it's going to depend. There are some companies that are pickier and you might feel like it's lower. So it can be kind of an individual decision, but it's definitely worth thinking about. And it could vary depending on the situation. If you put your high school GPA on and you don't put your college GPA on, that's a red flag. I'm like, what's going on here? Oh, and this came from a survey of employers besides the ones in our office too. Okay, so after resume comes cover letter. This is another tricky subject. You're not all gonna write cover letters, but cover letters are important. So we definitely wanna talk about it. So submit one with your resume whenever possible. And I do agree with this. Now, there are some that just don't have a spot for it, right? If they only want resume, only do resume. If you try to get around it, it usually goes badly. So like for an example, that would be Microsoft. They've said that in the past, people would write a cover letter and have it be attached with the resume as one document, one PDF. So the first page is cover letter, second page is resume. And they were only taking the first page. So if you submitted a cover letter, your resume got lost, so don't do it. So if they say specifically only resume, follow their rules, just do resume. If they say cover letter is required, well, it's pretty clear we have to do one, right? If it's optional, that's where it's trickier. I would always encourage you to do it. It's not going to hurt, and it could help. Exceptions are if the company has specifically told you, don't waste your time. So Google comes to campus every year and says, don't submit a cover letter unless you've just got something really groundbreaking. So for Google, I probably wouldn't bother. Or if the job is due tomorrow and writing a cover letter is going to keep you from applying, I'd rather you applied without it than not apply at all. But if we're planning ahead, starting early, we should always do a cover letter. Yeah, this is the other hard part. So people that are still like, I'm going to do a cover letter, they write one cover letter for every job, write one for all their jobs. So really want it to be unique for each posting, each company. This is the hard part, but this is what makes it worthwhile. The point of the cover letter is to really show how you match this particular job and not just every job, how you are the best fit for this position. So if you don't make it unique, you're kind of defeating the purpose. There's always going to be exceptions to that. There are jobs that are just super vague. If you really want a job and it's really specific, then this is a lot easier. If it's super vague and you don't even care, then yeah, it's going to start to look the same. Or if you apply, for instance, to 2 consulting companies, your letters may be pretty similar. But as much as you can make it individual, it helps. Definitely if you apply to consulting and engineering, that letter better be different because they're not looking for the same thing. All right. Oh, address to a person or the hiring manager. This is another tricky one. It often doesn't end up happening. You know, the default is going to be dear hiring manager, and that's okay. But if there is a name, use it, right? If you get a letter addressed to you, you're more likely to read it than if it says dear resident. It just makes it feel focused, makes it feel like you did the extra effort. But again, don't delay your application by a week while you look for a contact. I don't want you to miss the application. And sometimes it's just hard to know if it's the right person. So, you know, do a little effort there, but not feel like it's an absolute necessity. Grammatically correct again, same as resume. We don't want mistakes here. And if it's a bad cover letter, that's where it could hurt you. So make sure it's decent, or else you could choose not to do it. And then this is a test, right, to see can you write well? Because the resume is one thing, but cover letter is a little different. So yeah, make sure it looks good. And it is weird. It's awkward. The writing in cover letters is not like any other writing we do. So this is important. Get someone else to look at it and give you feedback, because it's really tricky. Oh, sorry, I went too far. Okay, so the feedback about recruiters and cover letters makes them mad, right? If there's no connection between the job requirements and your qualifications, you've defeated the purpose. You should be able to say, this job needs this, and I'm bringing this. That's what they want. Poorly written, yeah, right, that just makes you look bad. Errors also makes you look bad. And then not having a cover letter. So if a company wanted a cover letter and it's not there, that's gonna hurt you. Example I like to give of this though is AT&T. AT&T hires a lot of our students, and we have close relationship with the recruiters, but we have different recruiters. And even for the same job, it may be different recruiters reading the application. So this is where it gets tricky. I'll have one recruiter say, I don't like cover letters. I'm not going to read it. Don't bother. And the other recruiter says, I love cover letters. I read every single one. They really make a difference to me. So it's important to realize that, like, you don't know for sure when they're going to like it, when they're not. So that's where the default of we should submit it as long as it is good and doesn't have errors is helpful. Too long. Okay, so we talked about resume. Resume should be 1 page for all of you. Same thing with cover letter. Cover letter should never be over a page, and it should be on the short end. The resume, we're trying to like cram as much in as we can, but cover letter, we want brief. We want bigger margins on the cover letter. We just want 3 to 4 paragraphs. We don't want it too long. The longer it is, the less chance they're going to read it, and the less chance they're going to see the key points you want to make. So yeah, those are some cover letter notes. All right, so switching away from the documents, what is OCR, on-campus recruiting? So it's been in the slides a couple times, but I didn't really explain it. This is for the Career Center when companies are really coming to campus to interview. And obviously right now they're not coming to campus, but same concept when they're targeting WashU, when it's a WashU specific situation. So on-campus recruiting, the employers come to campus, interview students in the Career Center office. This is always awesome, right? This means they're specifically targeting WashU. This means you get to meet them in person, but with minimal effort. It's great. It is not the only way to go. So definitely look out for these opportunities, but also don't feel like if it's not on campus, that means it's not worthwhile. Both sides can be good. Often the way this works is you're going to apply through CareerLink, submit a resume, and then be pre-selected to do an interview on campus. And then they'll like send you an email and you'll sign up for a slot during the time. And then there are cases where you're the alternate, like they like you, but they ran out of spots. So then you still got to keep an eye on that, see if you can get squeezed in. What's really important, if it's available, is go to the information session the night before. Often if they're going to bother to come in and interview, they may come ahead of time and do an information session. Information session is just that. They're giving you information. You still want to look good. You want to look nice. You want to present yourself well. But it's not an interview. It's a chance to learn more and do some extra research before you go to the interview. And then typically on-campus interviews, often they're 30 minutes. It could be a little shorter or a little bit longer. Sometimes interviews are longer when you're like on campus, if they on their campus. If they send you out to their location, it may be longer. But in our office, it tends to be pretty brief. And there's always exceptions. On-campus interviews is a real interview. It is replacing another step of you having to go there. So you want to treat it like an interview. You want to dress well, all the same things you would do. And make sure you show up, right? Sign up, be there on time, be there early. Don't miss it. All right, so we're just throwing in some more advice here. Start the job search process early, right? That's what a lot of people said. It really makes a difference. Yeah, this person says they didn't have to network and they got a job, but it maybe wasn't the easiest way to do it. And that it is really important to narrow your focus and search. Stay on top of things. Don't give up. Keep checking. Keep pushing. Don't just apply and sit back and wait. Don't send one email and then give up. Keep going. So how many weeks did this take? The average we found was 16 weeks or 3.25 months. And that's only an average, remember. So you expect a 3 to 5 month search process, spending 3 to 5 hours per week. But it can take much longer. And some of this will depend on your industry. If you're applying to finance or consulting or software jobs, you could get a job very early in the year. If you're applying to other jobs, it might be not till the end of the year. So some of it's just going to depend. But definitely it takes some time. For graduates that graduate in May and haven't even begun the search, yeah, it's not uncommon for it to take 4 to 6 months for them to find something. So it's good to just be prepared for that. Some people, it'll be a lot easier. It'll happen really quick. So key here, take action. Don't just sit back and wait for it to come to you. Reach out. Okay, some more advice. So we also talked about it, right? Get the resume in shape. Go to the Career Center. They'll help you with how you can best market your skills and experiences. I really recommend the career peers when they're available, not during the summer. They do a great job of just helping you pull out some more details in there. That's what they focus on, is how to do these resumes. And use CareerLink and be aggressive. Be aggressive is a rough term, right? Again, there's a balance. Don't be too aggressive, but most students I find are not aggressive enough. Talk to companies at the career fair, polish up your resume, talk to those that have a job, keep a positive attitude. That's a really good tip, right? People are less likely to hire you if you are not positive, and it can be tough. Okay, so fall career fairs. Now we're gonna all admit this fall is uncertain. We don't know how everything is gonna look. They'll definitely be recruiting. We don't know if it'll be employers coming in person or if more of it'll be virtual. But here's what we have lined up. Every fall we have an all-campus internship and job fair. Planning on that again. Usually September, sometimes October, somewhere in that range. We also usually have an engineering specific event. Last year it was called the Spotlight. I would expect that to happen again. And then there's a lot more individual fairs. So professional society conferences can be a great opportunity. I do like to emphasize that while it's a good opportunity, everyone doesn't have to do it. It's not free. And it's not a guarantee. These career fairs are great opportunities, but they are not the only way to find a job. They're just one resource. So one of the big ones that you have to apply to really early is Grace Hopper, although they have already announced they're going virtual this year. So we're waiting to hear more details on that. That conference is at the end of September, beginning of October, but registration is much earlier because it's in high demand. That's a CS for Women conference. SWE, the Society of Women Engineers, theirs is in November, I believe. And the student group is already working on who gets sponsorships to that, but other people are certainly eligible to go. NSBE is in the spring. Unfortunately, this one was canceled or postponed till later. But yeah, so next spring will be good for NSBE. National Society of Professional Engineers, that's another good one. They do one over the summer, and that's a professional organization that I don't think students take enough advantage of. That's a good one if you're wanting to become a professional engineer. It can help you with the FE exam. You can join for free as a student. SHPE on campus. Hispanic engineers, their fall conference as well, I think November. But there are others. There may be ones more specific to what you're interested in. So again, don't feel like you have to do these or like it's going to be the answer, but it's a great opportunity. Yeah, and then other ones. And then the other thing I'll throw out, we're focusing on the fall here, but then there'll also be a spring fair on campus as well. So lots of opportunities. So again, career fair is nice. It's a good opportunity. We do prep sessions for it, help you get ready, but it is only one step. So CareerLink, that's a big deal. If you have not already used CareerLink, you should log into it, get your account set up. Everyone, all students have access to this already. It's just your Wooster key. It's good periodically to check in though. Make sure your graduation dates are correct. If your GPA is in there, make sure it's correct. Make sure we have the right information. The graduation date can happen a lot, right? Students might graduate earlier or later and it may not be reflected. So that's good to check. Sometimes some of the settings are maybe not optimal for you, so we can help you with that. If you change your major or just change your focus areas, make sure that's correct. And then upload your documents. So you'll be able to submit documents directly from CareerLink. So it's great to just have them in there, ready to go if you've already gotten it reviewed. And you can have different versions for different experiences. Search the database a couple times a week, but also have saved searches set up. That way it's going to email you every week as new things pop up to try to help you not miss anything, because we are constantly putting more things in there. I will say even for this summer, we're still posting summer opportunities for this summer now, because there's always more. So keep an eye on that. And then update your industry and job function links to get more targeted emails. Then we know to let you know if we have a job in Boston that's about this industry, we know to email you. So that's really important. I always like to say too, CareerLink is a really great resource, but it's also kind of a pain. So if you're having any trouble, let us know, we'll help you. Don't feel like it's you, it's CareerLink. Okay, more advice, we just sprinkle this in everywhere. Keep in contact with people, right? It doesn't matter where they came from. It could be your high school teacher. It could be family, friends, but they may help you out. One of the easiest ways to keep in contact is going to be friend them on LinkedIn. But yeah, think about how you can make use of different contacts you have. Take advantage of WashU alumni. This is huge. Alumni love it when you reach out and say, you went to WashU, I go to WashU, right? They like that connection. They've been where you are and they want to help you. And get your name out to everyone, because you just don't know. I often tell this story. So again, COVID may impact this, but you're home for the summer. What do? You go to the dentist, right? It's time to get your teeth cleaned. When you go to the dentist says, what are you up to this summer? And you could just say, oh, I'm so glad to be done. I'm just gonna play video games, right? That's probably a typical response. But what if instead you say, well, I'm really getting ahead on my job search. Now the dentist says, well, what do you wanna do? You say what you want. He's like, oh, my brother does that. Why don't you talk to him? Now, you don't go to the dentist with your resume saying, help me get a job, because that would be utterly ridiculous. But still, making the job search part of your everyday conversation, you're going to find out connections you wouldn't have expected otherwise. Doesn't mean you don't talk about job search only. Talk about other things too. Okay, key point through this all, though. Keep going. We've said a lot already, but it's a lot of work, but you can do it. Just persevere and keep through it. So networking. Some of the key things there, really quick. Success stories. This is something on our website. If you go to the Career Center Career Center website, type in success stories in the search bar, it'll pop up. And it is our database of past experiences that students have had. So it's a good way to see what kinds of things people have done. And then you can reach out and connect with those students or recent alums. Venture Cafe and Cortex. And this is a cool thing you may want to do over the summer. So Venture Cafe is over in Cortex by the med school at the startup district. And they do a happy hour every Thursday night. So when you're back on campus in the fall, you can physically go to the happy hour. They have free drinks, sometimes free food, lots of cool people, cool topics. Right now, it's all virtual. But the advantage of being virtual is it means no matter where you are, you can still participate. And you can participate not in the one here, but also in the one in Cambridge, in Boston, where it started. But it's a good chance to go network. So you can play around now with virtual networking, but also next year, do some in-person networking that way. And then informational interviews. Informational interviews is where you reach out to someone in the industry you're interested in and say, what you do looks super cool. Would you tell me more about it? And then you meet up with them by phone or Zoom or in person, and you ask them some questions. And it's just a really good way for you to learn, but then also for you to get connected with them. So that's something we'd love to talk more about and help you out with. Just to make sure I'm not missing anything. Let's see. Internet job boards. So I threw this out a little bit. Definitely use CareerLink, but it's not the only place to look. The two biggest I hear all the time are going to be LinkedIn and Indeed, and those are great. There may be other ones more specific for your area, but definitely check them out, but don't feel like that's where you should spend the bulk of your time. It's a low chance just from applying, but it's a good way to at least find out who's hiring and get an idea, and then we can do more steps to connect with them. Professional associations, I already touched on that, but I think that is a seriously underused option for students. See where you can get involved with those groups. It's often free or low cost now, and they get really excited to see students. It's a bunch of old people at these meetings often, and they're excited to see younger people and have you help keep them connected to what's going on. So it can be a great opportunity. And then alumni groups. So do on LinkedIn, make sure you have a LinkedIn profile. If you have any issues with that, we're happy to walk you through it, but then join groups. And the specific group to start with is this one, the Washington University Alumni Group. It's something like 25,000 members, You can join any WashU group you want, by the way, but this one's huge, and you can join it as a student, and then it helps you with further searches because now you've got alumni connections. And then there's other ones you may join based on groups you're involved in or interests you have. And then research companies, right? CareerLink is a great place to start, but it is not the end. And job boards are not the end. Look for new companies. Come up with companies that look cool to you. See where people work and learn more about it. Find somebody, you have a target of ExxonMobil, and you look up people at ExxonMobil and figure out where did they work before that? Where did they work after that? Or, Google what kind of companies are in that field. But definitely see what kind of companies are out there that you may not know about and broaden the search. And then the ultimate goal here, right, is we land. That's the happy news. But to do that, there's more steps. So you're targeting these places you're applying, but you don't want to leave it at that. So you want to follow up. So what happens? People apply, and then you sit back and wait. And then the employer has to be the one to be proactive. So instead, you follow up, right? You make sure to reach out to them. You make sure to thank them. You make sure to check in with them to see what's next. You can change the way you're communicating. Judge how it's going. See what works best for the person. If they're not responsive by email, try a phone call. Try LinkedIn. Try different methods. And of course, be professional and be polite. That is key through all this. We don't want to use text speak, right? We want to make sure we're not taking advantage of their time. If you call someone on the phone, start out with, is this a good time? Does this work for you? Or should I call back later? And it's really great. An easy way to keep in touch with people is to send me updates, right? You do an informational interview with someone. You're talking about a project you have coming up or something they have, and then you can follow up later with results on that or with a related article. So it doesn't have to be really forced, but you can think about where you can keep touching base with someone. So you don't talk to them once and then wait a year and talk to them again when you need something, which is what usually happens. But what could you do to keep some of that conversation going in between and to make sure you don't miss out on an opportunity? And ultimately, the goal here is to land an interview. So you're trying to make sure that they don't just let you slip through the pile, but they notice you and say, this person means that. They're doing the extra effort. I want to give them a shot at the interview to see how they do. That brings us to the topic of interviewing, right? That's also really critical. So several different types. Phone interview is often a first round. Could be Skype or Zoom, as we're now seeing. On campus, as we touched on, or on site. On site is generally going to be the final round where you've already impressed them and they're going to send you out to see the company in person. So the key is you want to be prepared, right? You don't want to just go into an interview without any preparation. You want to be prepared, especially if there's some more specific ones. These are not going to be in most interviews, but some people will do some sort of testing or code challenge. Some will ask you to do a presentation. They will not put you on the spot and say do a presentation. They'll warn you to prepare it. May want more projects, and then case studies are particularly important for consulting. So it's good to know what you're getting into. Usually the company will tell you. You can do some research on your own, looking it up on Glassdoor, talking to different people to know what you're getting into. Usually most of these are going to be one-on-one, one interviewer, one interviewee, but it could be two-on-one. It could be a couple interviewers with you. Once in a while, it's a group of applicants. That can be really weird, but there's different types. So again, understanding what you're going into can help you prepare. And then this is really where you do first impression, right? Like we already have the first impression from the resume, but this is where they're actually seeing you, or by phone at least hearing you. And you want to make sure you make a good impression. So what you wear is really important. Your enthusiasm, the attitude in your voice, smile, and being professional. Thinking that all through. And then question types. So I may touch on this a little bit, but we got traditional questions. Tell me about yourself. What are your strengths and weaknesses? More behavioral. Tell me about a time when you were a strong member of a team. Hypothetical. Yeah, what would you do in this situation? How would you handle this challenge? And then technical. Technical often means more like the coding, like let's actually write code. But you could have technical that was just more about, tell me about this technical project you did. How did you decide to do it this way? We have resources for all of these on our website. We can help you one-on-one. There's a nice PDF that goes through some of these. There's an outside source we use for some technical interview prep. and another outside source, Big Interview, that's more general for all types of interviews. So checking out all those resources to really get prepared. And through this all, doing your research on the company, being able to know the position, know who you're talking to, know about the company, and answer questions based on that. You know, why do you want this job? Make your case about why this is a really good fit. And obviously try to be honest, but also like paint a good picture. So some more advice from students: be honest and confident in your interviews. Not brutally honest, but honest. And work on the communication skills. So come practice with us. The more you practice saying things out loud is great. A lot of students like to prepare by writing down answers, and that's fine, but we're not trying to memorize it and be robotic. We're not going to read off a sheet of paper while we're on the phone. Practice actually saying it out loud, whether it's in your car or to a roommate, but let your tongue have some practice saying some of these answers. Okay, so what stands out most in an interview? Personality that seems to fit a position and team. Now this is tough, right? This has a lot of inherent bias in the process, but still trying to make sure it's a good fit. An example of this is case interviews for consulting. If you are not a people person, if you don't like having a big challenge, if you don't like pressure, it's not going to be a good fit for you. And that's going to be okay. If you go in an interview and it doesn't go well because it's not a good fit, that's all right. We figured that out. We move on. But yeah, so trying to make sure that you do show your true self and that it aligns with the company. This isn't trying to be fake, because if you don't fit, you know, you don't want to make yourself fit, but trying to give a sense of who you are. You're not a robot. Answers that include thoughtful examples. So an example of this is like, what are my strengths? Well, I'm hardworking and dedicated. Not very thoughtful, right? So if I can actually give some background to that. Well, I'm hardworking. I don't like to stop till I've seen the project through. That wasn't great. You could be more specific, but giving a little bit more, like really thinking through, how do you fit this company? Sincere, passionate interest in the position. I mean, that's key. If you come to me and say, oh, I need a job, you have a job, can I work for you? I could hire you, right? Like, you got skills, it'd be useful, but I don't feel like you're really excited about it. If you come instead and say, wow, what you're doing with this is amazing, that's exactly what I want to do, it fits with what I've already done, now I feel like you are dedicated to this. You're going to come, you're going to work hard, you're going to show up on time, you're going to stick with the company for a while, and that's what you want to see. Even that if I give you a job offer, you're going to accept it. If you're not excited, if you're really kind of bland, then I'm worried that even if I make you an offer, you're not going to take it. So trying to show some of that interest, not being fake, not being over the top, but still showing interest. I think especially as we're doing video interviews, when not even this in-person video, but like recorded video, showing that enthusiasm and showing some life becomes even more important. So it's not just boring. Poised professional attitude, right? Again, we don't want to be super casual. Interview is not the time to act like you're going to act on the job or dress like you're going to dress on the job. You're always going to act more professional and dress more professional than you would in a normal day. So show your true self, but show your best true self, your professional true self, not your everyday self. Yeah, and then show that you're smart and you're ready to learn, right? And evidence of that, not just saying I'm smart and I'm ready to learn. I've done really well in school. I've taught myself this language. Last summer in my internship, I learned these skills, things like that. And then we said this before, knowledge of the company and organization, right? They want to know that you understand this job and this organization, not that you're going for any job. So trying to really be specific as much as you can. There's always exceptions where there's like a company with no information out there. You can't do a lot, but most places, Google it, look up press releases, do some research to know some stuff. And then your final thing in an interview is you got to have questions for the interviewer. I guess not final thing, sorry. But you need to, they're going to at the end say, do you have any questions for me? And if your answer is no, you're not likely to get the job. It sounds like you don't want the job. So you have to have questions to show your interest. We have examples in our handout. The key is that it's something you want to know and it's something relevant. Certainly what's the best part of the job is okay. What's the worst part of the job can be interesting. How'd you choose this? What's an average day like? Or like legitimate questions you have. We want to avoid questions like about salary at this point, or personal questions, like about their family. But something relevant to the job is always good. And we touched on it before, professional dress. So don't dress as casually as you would. Silicon Valley, maybe you're going to wear flip-flops and shorts, but not for the interview. So suit for most interviews, and if not a suit, business casuals like slacks and a collared shirt. And then eye contact and mannerisms. This is really important. You want to seem like you're talking to them, right? You want to make good eye contact. That doesn't mean staring them in the eye for a solid hour, but paying attention, looking at them. And then your mannerisms, it's a balance, right? I don't want to be super stiff and I hold my hands and I don't move the whole time and I look really uncomfortable. But I also don't want to be like waving my arms. So it's a balance. We do some of each. So just paying attention to those things. That's where a practice interview can be really helpful to think all that through. So recruiters, the biggest area of improvement students can make is in their interviewing skills. Luckily, we also hear really positive feedback about interviewing skills, but we definitely hear that some students just didn't take the time to prepare. And that's a shame, because then you're not going to get it. And then for a foreign student, particularly with a heavy accent, you got to really focus on speaking clearly, good communication skills. Now, this is something, though, that I, as a native English speaker, have to work on. I tend to talk too fast. I tend to not speak clearly. So it's something we should all work on, but just be sensitive to that. You want to make sure they can understand you. And in a phone interview, it's that much harder. They can't see your lips. So you want to make sure to be very clear and slow, but not ridiculously so. After the interview, we're not done, right? We're going to persist with all these things. So now a thank you. Always send a thank you. Now, do you have to? No. Can you get a job without sending it? Absolutely. But it's an easy step just to go that extra step and show you really want this. So a thank you note can be varied depending on the situation. If you interviewed in someone's office in person with them and their whole wall was covered in thank you notes, I'm going to write them a nice handwritten thank you note. But for the most part, this is going to be done by email, right? A handwritten note probably looks dated and is going to take longer to get there. So a very nice email is great. It doesn't have to be long, but thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed learning about blah, blah, blah. I really look forward to the potential of working with your company. Just something to show I really do want this. If there was any doubt, or if there's any final thing you feel like didn't get resolved, you can throw that in. And then follow-up. Follow-up is different than a thank you. Follow-up is after the interview, don't just sit around and wait. And if you don't hear, assume you didn't get it. Kind of like the same thing with applying. Don't just apply and then sit around and wait. Check back in. In an interview, it would be nice if you asked at the end what the next step is and when you should hear more, because then you know when to follow up. But at some point, check back in and just say, oh, I hadn't heard anything yet. I'm still really interested. When will I hear more? And they won't necessarily stick to what they said, right? They might say, we're going to call you by Friday, and they don't. It's okay, but it's also appropriate then the next week to check back in. But just be understanding. Okay, so then the exciting part. Now we get an offer, right? This is what you're working towards. It's really exciting, but it's also tricky because probably you haven't had a ton of experience with it. Maybe some of you have. So there's different types, verbal versus written. So what I've seen is that usually the company is going to call you first and tell you over the phone. So that's a verbal offer. That's awesome and super exciting. But it's only part one. Then we're waiting for the written offer to come in. So we're not going to make any decisions usually based on that verbal offer. You want to get it in writing. And when I say in writing, it means email. It doesn't need to be an actual snail mail letter. But we do want to see that final thing before we're negotiating or anything else, because verbal, we have no guarantee. Usually it just comes. So questions, how long are you going to need to consider the offer? That varies based on a lot of situations, right? If this is your only company you're really talking with, maybe you don't need as much time. Maybe you know you want this offer. If you're waiting on a couple other things, you may need more time. So this is something for you to think about. I wouldn't immediately ask the company. It's really common for a student when they get an offer to say, oh, I need to let you know. But then they're going to give you a deadline and now you're tied in. So it's good to leave that open, let them set it if they want, and give you some time to figure out how much time you need. Usually they're pretty good. Sometimes they're not so good. It may depend on when you get the offer, but you can always ask for more. They can, of course, tell you no. So you got to figure out how much time you need to follow up with other companies or just to figure out if this offer is right for you. If you're in the middle of a big project, you might need more time, right, than if you have a lot of free time right now. Even if you've done some negotiation in the past, typically intern offers are a lot different than full-time. So full-time is going to include extra factors in your compensation and benefits that you may not have seen before. So that's something we can help you with, but the key is really just to read through it all and understand what all the different factors involved are. And then should you negotiate? This is a tricky question, right? With different options. One answer is that you always should negotiate, because why not, right? But it is helpful to have a reason to negotiate. Reasons not to negotiate are you don't want to just say, can I get more money? Then you just look greedy. But if you do some research, figure out what's right, and you think you should get more, it's worth asking, right? As long as you're polite about how you ask, you're not really losing anything. They can say no, and it's okay, but they can also say yes. If you don't ask, you won't know. And negotiation isn't just about that salary. Negotiation can be your start date. It can be any of your other benefits. For me, it's all about vacation, because that's what I'm most focused on at this point. But yeah, you can negotiate the different parts of it and ask. But it's really helpful to talk this through and to practice. So don't feel like it's something you should do on your own. And then where it gets tricky but good is balancing multiple offers. So if on the same day you got 3 different offers, you might feel pretty cool, because now you get to compare them all and make a decision, and that's awesome. What usually happens is it's not that simple, and you get one offer and you're still waiting on others. And that's where it gets tricky to balance, and it's usually helpful just to talk about it individually. But you can try to figure out how we could speed that other offer up. If you let a company know you already have one offer, they are likely to react quicker than if they think you have all the time in the world. So once you get one offer, it's great to reach out to the other people that you've been waiting on and just let them know. I just want to let you know, I just got another offer. I really want to work for you, but I'm wondering, can we speed this up? Because I don't want to turn down a sure thing. And so it's some back and forth between the 2 different companies. It's also trying to decide what offer you even want. Even if you do get 3, how do you pick? So there's a lot that goes into that. We can talk that through with you. And then there's some resources to try to learn more about salaries. One that's not on here, it's really common, is Glassdoor. It's going to give big ranges for salaries. Even on our website, you can look at outcome data and see where students have gone after graduation, and it's going to have really broad salary ranges. For more specific ones, you might look up the NACE salary survey, or I really like engineersalary.com. It is super specific, so it's not a good way to get a rough estimate, but it's a really good way to get an exact calculation for a specific job in a specific area of the country. So it's helpful to do some of this to get a feel for what is fair. But it's going to depend on, are you getting your master's, have you had previous experience, how qualified are you, things like that. Big thing about offers, we talked before about ways to work with us, to do a one-on-one appointment or to meet with us at the quick advising. Quick advising is good for this, or reaching out and letting us know. We don't want you to have to wait a couple weeks for an offer negotiation. So let us know, send me an email, call our main number, and we'll try to have someone talk to you that day if possible, because we know that's very time sensitive. I know we're at 12 o'clock, so I will wrap this up. We just have a couple more slides. So things to remember now. Start early, and that's why you're all here. So we expect it to take 4 to 6 months to land an opportunity. Dedicate job search time schedule each week. We didn't talk about this as much. Think about how you plan your schedule for classes. Treat this as another class. Do you want to say Friday afternoon you don't have class and Friday afternoon is job search time? Do you want to say every morning you do a little bit? But make sure you're giving regular time in your week to do this. Check CareerLink regularly. Check out the events we have going on. And network, keep that up. And come to us for help. And then celebrate your success. I mean, be proud when you accomplish these things. It's a lot of hard work, but you're going to do great at it. Accepting an offer, get all the details. What's your start date? What's the location? What kind of background check processes might be involved? This is key. Only accept one offer. So this is part of the negotiation as well. We love to have you talk to us before you accept, so we can work, help walk you through this. If you accept one offer and then get another offer later, it's really bad to turn that first one down. Some people think it's not, but it is likely to come back and hurt you in ways you don't expect. So you want to avoid, if possible, accepting one and then still continuing to search. When you accept an offer, let other companies know, I've already accepted an offer. Maybe I can work with you in the future. But go ahead and end. Enjoy that you've landed. Enjoy that you're done. And don't feel like you have to keep going. But we can talk that through as well. Tell us about your job offer. This is really important. So we have success stories. We have our outcome data. We have places where students can go and see what other students have done. And they want to see what you do. So if you can let us know, then when students say, well, what do mechanical engineers do? Then we have data. We can say, well, they often go to this company, and that's what we see on our website. So we really appreciate you giving us feedback. It also means that we don't keep bugging you to get it. So if you let us know, we appreciate it. And then, like I said, tell other employers that you're not on the market anymore. That'll help avoid any feelings of, should I have not done this? And enjoy it. You did it. Good work. So here's my contact information as our final slide. Again, my name is Jennifer Finney. You can reach out to me. Robin Shepard is also an engineering advisor. She does not work in the summer. So over the summer, I encourage you to reach out to me and not her. If you email her, you'll get a bounce back that says contact me. But in the fall, you may want to meet with either of us. We're both a good resource for you. This is our website link. This is our general email, but I would encourage you to reach out directly to me, and then our main phone number. So please do reach out to us. We're happy to help throughout the process. So enjoy your summer, but get ahead in the summer, right? And we're here all summer long. So make an appointment with me and get started. That is the end of the presentation. Did we have any questions, again, in the chat or any hand raised before we wrap up? I know it went a little bit long. Okay. All right, so it looks like Alex raised his hand. Can we unmute? Let's see. Okay, yeah, what do you got, Alex?
So I struggle a lot with the following up. This year, I reached out to a lot of people, WashU alumni included, and more often than not, you just get nothing back except for white noise. So my question is like, am I supposed to be aggressive even in those situations where I've gotten no interest back or any indication that there's even any receiving end to this? Because I really struggle to know the line between a really proactive student who wants a job and someone who's getting a little bit creepy, stalkerish, or a little bit too needy. Also, with a lot of the internet job boards, they don't even have contacts for that job. So how are you supposed to follow up? Do you just send a very generic letter to HR explaining your situation, or what if you don't even have a contact?
Those are great questions, Alex. Thank you. Okay, so again, it's tough, right? These are all things where it's a fine line. So I feel your pain, and you can always come talk to us individually, but I do appreciate it as a group question because this is a very frequent question. It's going to depend on what exactly the situation is. So that whole nothing back white noise, is that after you just sent one email or one message through LinkedIn? I always think one message is insufficient. My rough estimate is I would say 3 points of contact are what I'd go for before I give up. So for instance, I might send one email, and if I didn't get a response, I'm going to send a second email. I'm going to give it a week or 2 weeks or something. I'm going to send another email and say, oh, I didn't hear back before. I just wanted to check back in. I'm sure you're busy. And I'm going to ask the question again. For me, that works super well. So you send me my first email, and then I'm busy, and I'm like, oh, I'll get back to you later today. And then I get 100 emails, and it's gone forever, and I will never get back to you. But you send a second email, I'm like, oh, no, and I'll reply instantly. So there's that. Try a second email. But if you're trying email and you're not getting a response, try a different method of contact, right? Try calling them. Some people are just bad at email. Try LinkedIn. So that's roughly what I'd say. Go for like 3 contacts and at least 2 different forms of contact before you give up. It also depends on how badly you want that, right? Like if there's a particular contact you're determined to reach, we might talk about how to be more aggressive. But if you're just trying to reach out in general to several people, you might be a little less aggressive. Also, the whole problem of not having a contact, right? It's just general HR or no contact at all. I would always start with CareerLink. So we talked about CareerLink as a job site. We didn't go into like details on it. So most students are going to use the job tab and apply, and I encourage you to do that. There's also the events tab. That's where you see who's coming to the career fair or who's coming to on-campus events or what kind of skill building sessions we're offering, like this one today. But you also have an employer tab there. So I would always go in and look up your employer under the employer tab, and we often have contacts there. So use that as my first person to follow up with. Those are contacts with WashU. So when you reach out, they shouldn't say, WashU, how's DC? Like they know who we are. The biggest challenge I find, sometimes there's more than one person on there and you're like, which one? So you have to kind of go through the list, see what their role is, maybe even cross-check with LinkedIn to try to figure out if they're still there. Because they don't always take themselves out when they leave. But it's still a really good resource to get started. If you can't find a contact there, because we don't have every company, but we have a lot. Even if you didn't apply through CareerLink, we may have a contact for you there. So try it out. Otherwise, I'll go to LinkedIn. And we could do a little more digging, right? Depending on the company and how badly you want to work there. You could cold call the company and ask to follow up. It's not got a high percentage of chance, but it's also really low effort, right? If you call and get someone who's grumpy and doesn't want to help you, you didn't lose anything. They didn't mark down your name and say, we're not going to hire Alex. But if you call and get a nice person, they might actually help you. So that's the brief answer, but hopefully that helps a little. Certainly happy to go into more if that didn't cover it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? That was great, by the way. Okay, so I think we're going to remind you, maybe Ashley was going to jump and do this, but there's a survey on campus.
Yes.
On Canvas, we want you to fill out and look up other pre-recorded sessions. Make sure you take advantage of those. Make sure you reach out to us and we can help you. Oh, did I mention?
And also,
oh, sorry, go
sorry,
ahead.
I was just going to say, Jennifer shared a lot of great information with us today, and this session is also being recorded and should be up on the Canvas course by tomorrow if you want to review it.
Thank you, Ashley. The one other thing that I think was not in the presentation that I wanted to just point out, we do have updates to our website for COVID. We have a lot of tips about how to maximize your summer. So in addition to making an appointment with us, reaching out to us, you may check out our website for some of those new features and things that you might be doing this summer just to get ahead, ready for next year as well. Awesome. Last chance for questions. Thank you all for your attention, and enjoy your summer.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.